Grammy-nominated pianist Sebastian Knauer has toured on 4 continents with prominent orchestras. He spoke with Penn State Previews in December and discussed his upcoming tour with Vienna Concert Verein Orchestra, Beethoven's Concerto, and his mentor, conductor Philippe Entremont.
I recently played with them here, actually at my festival, where they opened the festival. The first concert was performed by them, and we played a Mozart concerto together. And I was very pleased because they play really wonderful. I mean, musicians coming mostly from the Vienna Symphony. It should be good.
Now, Philippe Entremont, on the other hand, you know very, very well. You studied with him when you were younger, and you still perform with him both when he's conducting an orchestra, and also I understand that you have performed often with him as a piano duo.
That's true, yeah. We played many times, either just the two of us without any orchestra, either 2 pianos or 4 hands on 1 piano, or we had also many concerts playing on 2 pianos with orchestra and him conducting from the piano. So all kind of duo.
What age were you when you met him?
Nearly 20, around 19, 20 years old.
Is that when you began studying with him, or was that later?
No, that was the time where I got actually my private studying time, where I started studying with him. And the reason was that I was invited in Leipzig at the Gewandhaus, and he was as a soloist, and he was invited as a conductor. And so I didn't know him before. I mean, of course, I knew the name, and I thought, oh my God, that's one of the most famous pianists conducting my piano concerto, so he might know every note really well. But he was so nice as a person, and very, very great musician. And after the concert, he said, beautifully played, and we should do more things together. And so my first wish was if I could just work with him, I mean, on my playing. And of course, playing with him on stage was the next thing he offered. But I took many lessons in the years after, which was really, really helpful and interesting, of course, working with such a great musician.
What's the most important thing that you've learned from him?
His appearance on stage is very impressive. And so I learned a lot about present yourself on stage, on one hand, and on the other hand was just making music, because he's a great musician, and technical wise I learned already a lot before, but working together with a musician is different than working with a real piano teacher, I would say. And my piano teacher I studied with Germany is one of the really most famous piano teachers worldwide, or was, as he died recently. And but he was not a performing artist, and that's different. I mean, you learn a lot about how to use the keyboard and how to play the piano technical wise, but making music, that's the important thing, which will last for longer.
At Penn State, you're going to be the soloist for the Piano Concerto No. 3 by Beethoven. Right. Music doesn't get any bigger than Beethoven, and certainly a countryman of yours. The piece was written about 1800, so it was kind of a transitional period for Beethoven, wasn't it?
True. So that we say that the first and the second piano concerto are still a little, I would say, on the way going away from Mozart to Beethoven, because I mean, the importance of the orchestra is still a bit lower than the soloist. But in the third concerto, there he really started giving more importance to the orchestra. So the soloist is not so, I would say, in front. I mean, Mozart and all the times before, the orchestra was just accompanying the soloist. But with the third concerto in Beethoven, you have, I would say, a real partner on stage who has more or less the same importance than the soloist. So that makes this concerto really interesting. And of course, it's a minor concerto, which is the only one of the 5 concertos. and it's a fantastic piece.
It was performed at its debut by Beethoven himself. Do you ever think about that when you sit down to perform a piece that was first performed by the composer?
Of course, it's very interesting if we realize that at that time when he played it himself. I mean, first of all, he had to put candles on the piano to see, because they didn't have any lighting on stage or every electricity. And the other thing was that the orchestra was not that big as we know from today. I mean, the orchestration was the same, but the number of players were not that big, and sometimes the parts, the music parts for the orchestra players were, I mean, they were handwritten first of all, and then sometimes they were not finished, and then sometimes just I would say in the last minute they finished, they got the music and they played it more or less by side reading. They were not rehearsing for ages as we do it, and so the circumstances when Beethoven played it himself, and I mean, I'm not sure about his ears, but I'm sure that he had already many problems with his hearing. I mean, his ears. And
right.
If you imagine that under these circumstances, that how they perform these pieces, it's quite interesting and amazing.
You have described yourself as an honest musician, that when you sit at the piano, you believe that the composer is first and foremost. What did you mean by that?
More and more young, I would say, superstars on stage, as a sudden, they just appeared from nowhere. And they made something out of their own person on stage to get more interest on them, more focus. So also record labels, they started to present pianists in high heels and short skirts, and somebody on stage making more theater or show effects about the person. And that's a style of, I would say, public relation, which I'm not very happy with. When I'm on stage and when I play, for example, a concerto of Beethoven, he's the hero and the star on stage because he proposed this piece, and I'm just the person who's performing it. But I don't make this piece another work. It's there already, so I'm just there to perform it, and that's what I mean with being honest or serious. That I just try to reduce my personality as much as possible, so it's not disturbing the real star on stage, which is Beethoven.
Vienna Concert Verein Orchestra with soloist Sebastian Knauer performs Friday, February 7th at Zoellner Arts Center. For tickets, visit zoellnerartscenter.org.